Good afternoon. Hey everyone, my name is Lynn Renz. I wanted to share a little bit with you. I am an author of a book called Love, Light, and Violet. Violet learns the truth about real magic. I'll read the back of it and then I'll read a chapter. Violet is a young woman that goes on her own personal journey into a magical place. She meets many interesting creatures such as dragons, wolves, mermaids, and so much more. Violet is taught what magic truly is compared to what mortals actually believe it is. Violet learns so much about herself as she learns she is so much more than she grew up believing. So much more. Alright, let's get to a chapter in here. This book is available on Amazon. Of course, with everything going on right now, I know no one wants to order or anything like that, and I completely understand, but at least you can put it in your cart if it sounds like it's interesting to you. Here is a little quote from the book. They danced to the sound of raindrops hitting the creek like a secret drum. As water hit the stones, each droplet made a different sound, a different note. They danced in the rain for what seemed like hours. Marin twirled Violet in circles as they danced their own secret dance. This book was published by New Soft Publishing. Here is a note to my readers that I feel is pretty important, especially in today's age, I'll say. You have magic within you. It is inside of your heart. Love, light, and kindness is magic. Magic is something not everyone understands or even believes in. It is up to us to show the world that love and kindness do exist. Here's another quote. Magic is alive. Magic never died. By Leonard Cohen. Okay, here's the first chapter. I'll show you the book, the front. It is called The Fairyland Portal. As the night was beginning to fall, the moon began to awaken. The moon was a gorgeous light. She would sing a song that called to a young girl named Violet. Violet was a beautiful girl, even though she never believed or could see it for herself. She was around 5'3" with shoulder-length dark black hair. It was the night before the last day of junior year of her high school, when the moon called to her once again, just like it always did. Violet sometimes felt like she was crazy because she could hear the sweetest melodies in her head at night. It had even cured her insomnia. Violet felt as though she was alone, and yet not alone. At the same time, her parents always worked or were always away on vacation, so she rarely ever saw them. As she could lay down to sleep at night, Violet would close her eyes, waiting for the melody to put her to sleep, which it did, as if right on schedule. Violet was never alone with these energies surrounding her. She felt no one could ever understand, and she wouldn't tell a soul because they would think she was crazy. They would have put her in an institution. Violet used to have insomnia due to night terrors, men chasing her, evil darkness lurking in the closets and dark corners. She would stay awake listening to the music, watching TV, or reading a book, hoping she would fall asleep. Violet could hear the mumbling of footsteps through the house even when she was the only one there. Eventually, she started to pay attention and listen. She could actually hear the spirit of the moon singing to her. It always sang a sweet song of happiness and serenity that eased her to sleep. As she began to hear and listen to the song of the moon, the night terror ceased and she no longer suffered with insomnia. Violet was a quiet teenager, unlike most loudmouth, hormone-raging girls her age. Most people who crossed her path adored her, yet she only had a few close friends that knew her well. Well, fairly well anyway. They were the type of friends that were able to drag out the fun, playful side of her. They could bring out a person not many knew existed, and that is exactly how she preferred things to be, a mystery. Violet was a shy one and hated being in crowds and situations in which it was hard for her to escape. She wanted to stay in the house or garden and write her poetry and read her books. Books for her were a portal to a world far away from where she was. Anywhere was better than here. The night before her last day of school, before summer break, she felt the moon's presence, and her energy called Violet to walk outside. As Violet got up from her reading corner, it was as if she was in a daze. Her hands reached to slide open the door to her back porch. Violet felt a cool breeze blowing in the night. She grabbed her purple coat off the hook that hung on the wall next to the door. The coat was very special to her, as her grandpa had given it to her for her 16th birthday, not too long ago. It kept her warm, just like his hugs did when he wrapped his arms around her. The back of the house faced a wild garden that had not been ruined by man. This garden was full of what some would call weeds. However, Violet saw them as flowers, and they were beautiful to her. When her family first moved in, she asked her dad not to cut the pathway, rather to just allow it to grow wild. He promised that he wouldn't cut it. The garden became her gateway. On this 25th day of May, the moon sang the most beautiful song that she had ever heard. Come to me, my child, and rest a while. There is no need to fear, for I am here. It is okay, don't be ashamed. Not many can hear and feel the way that you do. You have learned to listen to us. The wind speaks to you, and the flowers call your name. Here in our land, magic is real, however, not like the magic you see on TV or read in your books. The real magic is of the heart, not spells and books. Walk through the path of the garden, I will light your way. Violet's heart filled with joy and excitement, yet she was still hesitant. An inner voice told her to listen to the moon. The breeze began to billow through the tall grass and blowing through the top of the trees, her coat flowing behind her as she embarked on a journey. As she walked through the grass, she placed one bare foot in front of the other. She could feel the chilly blades on grass beneath her feet as she walked on and on for what seemed like 5 miles instead of only 1. Maybe it was the mystery of the shadows that made the path seem longer than it actually was. Finally, she came to a tree that was lit perfectly by the waterfall and the moonlight. There, in the middle of this tall tree, was a secret door, a portal to another world. It was a sight to see, absolutely breathtaking. Above the portal, on the tree, was a sign with the words, "Welcome, enter if you believe." Her hands started to tremble, not from fear, rather from excitement of the unknown. Violet grasped the handle to the door and whispered, "I believe," just like she did when she was a small child. As she walked through the door, Violet shrunk smaller and smaller with each step. Once through the door, she saw a tunnel of light before her. She started down the curvy path and walked until she came to a halting stop. There were 2 paths ahead with signs pointing in directions. On one of the signs were the words, "Fairyland this way," and on the other was an arrow pointing to the right where the words, "If you are afraid, exit to the right." Without a second thought, Violet chose the path to the left, into Fairyland. Once Violet ventured onto the path to Fairyland, she strode through the forest as the light from the sun began to shine brightly through the trees. The forest was full of beautiful flowers, more vibrant than any color in the rainbow. There were hundreds of dragonflies and butterflies fluttering about. Violet heard the sound of birds chirping a song. She could also hear the sound of frogs croaking as they jumped from lily pad to lily pad. As she listened to the sound of a waterfall in the distance, Violet heard a voice that sounded like an angel singing. She quickly looked around to see where the voice came from. There, next to the path, stood a shimmering fairy. With love and light, fairies will be within sight. With intention so true, your dreams can come true. Fairies will dance in the moonlight and sing beautifully tonight. "I'm Annabelle," said the owner of the voice as she spread wide her white shimmering wings. Violet extended her hand. "Nice to meet you. I'm Violet." "I'm so happy you believe in us," Annabelle said, cupping Violet's hand with her left. "Connecting with you is more important for us as well as for you. You are like all of us too, for love and light is within you." Violet was amazed beyond belief to be in such a magical place. It looked like something from her dreams or like her imagination and visions when she read her books. This, however, felt more real than anything that she had ever felt. Annabelle's eyes were so blue they were the color of the deep blue water that shimmered below her feet. Violet saw love, compassion, and a fire deep within Annabelle's soul. Looking into those beautiful eyes, Violet had the thought, she has a heart of gold and the strength and courage of a lioness. Golden blonde hair draped past Annabelle's shoulders like a waterfall flowing over a creek. Annabelle moved from the path and sat on a large rock by the water. Her dress was the same color as her wings, with jewels that covered the bodice, a dress truly fit for a fairy goddess. Upon her head sat a halo of white roses and baby's breath. Her skin was so light, flawless, and she wore no makeup. However, her face radiated pure natural beauty. A golden light followed her wherever she went, as if the sun were a backdrop set up for her portrait. The sun set and the moon began to rise higher and higher as the sun faded into the darkness. "Walk with me," Annabelle said. Violet followed her behind as Annabelle began to walk along the moonlit path in the middle of the fairyland forest. The sound of the waterfall grew closer and closer until Annabelle stopped. The night before them was a waterfall like no other. It was glowing blue, like magic, with sparkling stars as the moonlight kissed the waters. The music of the birds began to chirp, followed by the croaking and the splashing of frogs. The dragonflies and butterflies were sitting by the water, as if waiting for something. Annabelle stood on the largest stone, then another fairy followed, and then another and another, until the creek was surrounded by dancing fairies. Violet just watched while the moonlight and fairies danced across the water, as though the element of water and the fairies were one. It was the most beautiful sight she had ever seen, and the most gorgeous song she had ever heard. After the fairies finished dancing to the sweetest, most captivating music her ears have ever had the privilege to hear, Violet sat there in wonder and full of admiration for this enchanting moment. "That was beautiful," Violet said. "Thank you," another voice said. "You're very welcome," Violet replied, as she looked around to see who the new voice belonged to. "My name is Christina," the fairy said, as she held out her hand, and Violet reached to shake it. Christina then wrapped her arms around Violet in a warm embrace. "Welcome to Fairyland. I have a feeling we will be great friends. I can feel it," Christina said. "Okay," replied Violet, feeling a little awkward. "Well, I will see you around soon," Christina said as she turned to walk away. Violet watched as this beautiful girl, who was a little older than herself, walked into the forest. Christina would probably be like a sophomore in college if she were in the mortal world. Christina's dress was a gorgeous orange, like Carolina lily. It was long and elegant and had a beadedly perfect space along the front. "Tomorrow will be a new day. Now it is time to go home," Violet said to herself. "Violet," Annabelle called, breaking into her thoughts. "Ma'am," Violet questioned as she turned to face Annabelle. "You can rest here in Fairyland. You don't have to go home now if you don't want to. Time in Fairyland is very different from the mortal world. Days here can be like minutes or hours in your world," Annabelle explained. "Really? That is amazing. Where should I go to rest? I'm very tired. This is a lot to take in," Violet said with a yawn. "Yes, it is, and I will take you to a place so you can rest and re-energize." Annabelle and Violet walked through the forest as the fireflies, moon, and 1,000 stars lit their way. They arrived at a garden filled with hundreds of different varieties of flowers. The flowers here grew even more wildly than those in the garden path at home. "Here you are," Annabelle pointed to a beautiful violet flower. "Climb upon the toadstool and rest in the flower as if you were sleeping in your own bed." Violet stepped on the toadstool and climbed into the flower. The center was so soft it was like velvet. The petals were so silky and soft to the touch. Annabelle covered her up with an extra flower petal to keep her warm, like a mother tucking her child into bed. "Sleep well and rest a while, for you have a big day tomorrow," Annabelle said, as she flew off into the night. Violet drifted off to sleep. The flower was so comfortable, and the moon, as always, sang her a sweet lullaby. Chapter 2 is the Fairyland Queen. So I'm going to stop there. I just kind of wanted to give you a little taste of the book. I'm actually working on the second book to this series. It is it's a young adult series. Of course, adults can read them as well, as we all love a lot of young adult novels. A lot of them have a lot of fantasy and magic and things that the world needs, especially right now with there's so much going on. I just wanted to share this with you. If you liked the reading or want to know more or anything like that, you can follow me on my Facebook page. I think it's Lynn Renz Brown author, or vice versa, something like that. I'll put it in the comments because I don't remember how I worded it. Brown is my maiden name, where that Happy Magical Dreams, this other book that I have that I read earlier in another one, it is by Lynn Brown. That is also me. That is my maiden name. Lynn Renz is my married name. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of magic today, and I will see you later. Maybe read a little bit more. Have a blessed day.